Hello, everyone. Thank you for bearing with my computer issues this week. They are ongoing, but we're going to try our best to get through this lecture. I am just going to do audio on this one. You should still be able to see my mouse if I need to point something out, but I'm doing audio to hopefully make this work and get around some of these issues that I've been having. This will be a two-part lecture, so this will be part one of the endocrine system. All right, so here are your learning objectives for this chapter. And let's talk a little bit about what the endocrine system is in general. So this is going to be a system that is made up of special organs called glands, which are going to secrete signaling chemicals called hormones into the bloodstream. There's going to be several different functions of the endocrine system. One of the main ones is maintenance of homeostasis within the body. It is also responsible for regulation of growth and development of an organism and regulation of metabolism, sleep, mood, energy level, and most organ functions. There's a whole lot going on here in this system. So, what is a gland? A gland is going to be any structure that is going to make and secrete a substance either inside or outside of the body. We have endocrine glands. We remember from our midterms class, our science language classes, that endo means inside. So endocrine glands secrete inside the body, where exocrine glands, we know exo means outside, are going to secrete outside the body. They're going to secrete hormones, and what hormones are they are just chemicals, right? Different elements bonded together in different ways that are going to be secreted by endocrine glands, which are going to travel through the bloodstream to specific target cells. Our hormones can only affect their target cells. It's going to be kind of like a lock and key system because they're going to have specific receptors for specific hormones. We're going to have a few different types of hormones we're going to talk about. First, we will have steroid hormones. These are going to be hormones that are made from cholesterol. These are going to include the sex hormones, aldosterone, cortisol, calcitrol, and this is going to help us vitamin D. We also have non-steroidal hormones. These are going to be hormones made up from amino acids. There are a whole lot of examples of these. But the key takeaway there is just to remember that a whole lot of your hormones are steroid-based, and steroid hormones are made from cholesterol. So taking that all back to chapter 1 or 2 when we were talking about those big macromolecules. So let's talk a little bit about the major endocrine glands. These are going to be the pituitary, the thyroid, the parathyroids, the hypothalamus, the pineal glands, the pancreas, the gonads, which are going to be our testes and our ovaries, the adrenal glands, the placenta, and the thymus. So the pineal gland is going to regulate the wake and sleep cycle. This is what is responsible for our circadian rhythm. It does this by using melatonin. This is also usually called the hormone of darkness because it helps try to get us to sleep. This is going to be activated when the sun goes down, and it's going to lessen when it comes up. Too much light can negatively affect or confuse the pineal gland. This is why we don't sleep with our lights on in our house, or why you have trouble sleeping whenever you leave your lights on. Next, we'll talk about the hypothalamus, right? We talked about this in neuro. This is technically a part of the brain, but it also produces hormones. So it is kind of lives in both of these two worlds. It is the connection between the nervous and the endocrine systems. It is going to control a whole lot of what happens in the endocrine system. So it is going to regulate various processes of homeostasis. It's going to receive signals from the brain about the body, which are going to allow it to signal for different hormones to be released by the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is what we call the master gland. It communicates with the hypothalamus of the brain to regulate and signal all the other glands. It's going to have two components. It's going to have the anterior and the posterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary is going to secrete hormones to stimulate the other glands within the body, and the posterior pituitary is going to be an extension of the hypothalamus that is going to secrete hormones from the hypothalamus. So there are a whole lot of pituitary hormones. We're going to run through these really quick. These are helpful and important for you to know. So first we're going to have adrenocorticohormone sorry, I got tongue-tied there. Adrenocorticotropic hormone. We also call this one ACTH. This is going to stimulate the adrenal glands to secrete cortisol. We have thyroid stimulating hormone, which is going to stimulate the thyroid to secrete thyroid hormones. We have follicle stimulating hormone, which stimulates the ovaries to grow follicles for eggs, causes growth of sperm in the testes, and the release of estrogen. We have luteinizing hormone. This is going to stimulate ovulation of eggs and the release of progesterone and testosterone. We also have growth hormone. This is going to stimulate bone and soft tissue growth. Prolactin is going to stimulate the mammary glands to secrete milk. Oxytocin is going to stimulate the uterus to contract, like in childbirth, and it's also going to play a role in like bonding and love type behaviors. We also have vasopressin or ADH. This is very important. This is what helps us regulate our blood pressure and the tonicity of blood, which means like how much water we have in our blood, essentially. It's a very simplified way to say it, but so our thyroid is going to regulate our cellular metabolism. It is going to use glucose and other nutrients, and through that is going to help with homeostasis. So it's going to control our growth, our body temp, our oxygen, calcium, cholesterol, all of these things. The purpose of the thyroid is to produce T3 and T4 when stimulated by that pituitary thyroid stimulating hormone. It also produces calcitonin, which is going to lower blood calcium when it's too high, and is also going to signal osteoclasts to slow down, if you remember what osteoclasts are from our skeletal lecture. The parathyroids are going to be 4 small glands on the posterior of the thyroid that help to regulate blood calcium. They do this with parathyroid hormone, which has the opposite effect of calcitonin from the thyroid. So these are kind of two sides of the same coin, and they will work together. So as PTH is going up, then calcitonin is going down, and vice versa. So how this works is that it releases this PTH when the blood calcium is too low. And since calcitonin and PTH maintain homeostasis of the blood calcium by doing the opposite of each other, then this just keeps that calcium regulated and exactly where it needs to be. Excess of this parathyroid hormone can eventually lead to loss of bone density that we see in osteoporosis. So it's really important to keep all of this lined out. The thymus is going to control the development of immune cells or T cells during childhood. Thymosin is going to be the hormone which controls the development of T cells. And eventually, these shrink into mostly fatty tissue as we age. So this is something you have in childhood, and then once you've reached development, it kind of goes away. The adrenal glands are going to be 2 glands that just sit on top of the kidneys. They're going to produce our catecholamines. So what these are our stress hormones and also our sex hormones. These help the body deal with and prepare for stress. So this is where we get our fight or flight response. The hormones that we see here are epinephrine. We also refer to this as adrenaline. This is going to increase the blood pressure and the blood flow. It's going to increase breathing and heart rate, and it's going to inhibit like peeing and pooping and slow down digestion. The reason for this is because if you are in that fight or flight phase, if you have the adrenaline pumping, you don't want, you want all of your energy going to the organs and tissues that are going to help you fight or run away. You don't want to be slowed down by like digesting things. Norepinephrine is going to be the opposite of that. It's going to be activated by the nervous system and is going to be used more as a like a neurotransmitter. And cortisol is also a stress hormone that is going to raise blood glucose and reduce inflammation, and it can also suppress the immune system. So the pancreas is going to regulate blood glucose, also known as blood sugar, through the hormones insulin and glucagon. Insulin is going to lower the blood glucose by pushing glucose out of the bloodstream and into the body cells, whereas glucagon is going to raise the blood glucose by stimulating the liver and muscle cells to release glycogen, which breaks down into glucose. Okay, so here is a little bit of what this feedback loop looks like. I'm going to really simplify it here, but essentially the pancreas is going to be responsible for controlling blood glucose because insulin and glucagon are going to do the opposite actions of one another to maintain homeostasis. So this is a lot like we talked about with calcitonin and PTH, right? So essentially the pancreas is going to release insulin, the body cells, in response to that blood glucose level rising after eating. And then the liver is going to take up this glucose and store it as glycogen. And the body cells are going to also take up more glucose. And then this cycle is just going to continue. And then as the blood glucose level drops, then the pancreas is going to release glucagon. The liver is going to break down that glycogen into glucose and then push it out to the body for use. So this is just going to kind of go around and around and around. So let's talk a little bit about the gonads. So we have ovaries. These are going to regulate menstruation, ovulation, and female secondary sexual characteristics. The hormone produced here is going to primarily be estrogen. It's going to promote the growth and development of sex organs in females. It is also going to be produced in the testes, brain, and surrounding tissues. It is responsible for sperm production, libido, and erectile function as well. We also produce progesterone, and this is for maintaining the lining of the uterus and pregnancy. You can remember this by remembering it as progestation, because gestation means pregnancy, right? So let's talk about the testes. These are going to stimulate sperm production and male sexual characteristics. Testosterone is going to be the main hormone here. It's going to promote growth of the secondary sexual characteristics and sperm production. And again, this is also produced in the ovaries, adrenal glands, and other tissues in smaller amounts. It is going to control fertility, sex drive, bone health, and muscle growth. Here are some common misconceptions. So ovaries produce testosterone and testes produce estrogen. The primary difference here is just going to be the amount that is produced in those systems. The last thing we're going to talk about here is the placenta. This is going to be the organ which forms during pregnancy. This is going to provide the connection between the mother and the fetus. Human chorionic gonadotrophin is going to nourish the fertilized egg. This is what pregnancy tests detect whenever you take like a urine pregnancy test. And progesterone is going to support the maintenance of the placenta to maintain pregnancy. So that is all I have for lecture 1. Sorry if it felt a little disjointed. My computer is trying to kind of freak out the whole way through this lecture. So if I stumbled on my words a little bit more than normal, that's what was going on, but I'm trying my best to get this out to you guys. So this is lecture 1. Be looking also for lecture 2. Lecture 2 will be pretty short. We are just going to talk about some specific feedback loops within the endocrine system so I can give you guys some conceptual examples to kind of put this into real life. So that's all I have. If you have any questions or anything, please reach out.